So it's mid-January. I'm pretty excited. It's my first opportunity to go out with my Christmas snowshoes from Jeremy to Jeremy. My other ones were also a traditional style, but they were over 20 years old, and they were a little undersized when I bought them. So these ones, this is the bear paw style. Anyway, they're 10-inch by 36-inch snowshoes. They're rated for my weight, so I think they'll work a little bit better than my last ones. And I'm really looking forward to getting out for a snowshoe. So my other plan today was to talk about how to make a fire when you've got no knife, no saw, no axe. So some different tricks for collecting your fire materials, even if you need to make a big raging fire, like a survival fire. If you were wet and cold and you need to dry out all your clothing right down to the skin. So let's go for a little walk and we'll do that. So I've just got a couple of items with me. I have my, this is an Ontario knife company, focus. It's my giant knife mustache. Ontario Knife Company folder. That's my EDC knife. And I also brought a Bic lighter that lives in my pocket. When you are in the bush, you should always have multiple levels of fire starting methods with you. And the other item I brought, just because I like to play with this, is one of these Zippos that is sold. It's USB powered, and it fits inside of a standard Zippo case, but it's plasma powered. Or electrical powered. So I've got that. What else am and a flashlight. So even if you're not planning on staying out past dark, a flashlight can make all the difference if you get stuck out past dark. And really now, there's no reason not to carry one. They're so small, so powerful, so bright. Batteries last for a long time. A flashlight this small, this is ThruNite's new headlamp. It's a BSS H01. Look how small it is. It's like the size of my thumb. You keep that on an inside pocket. It's never going to get cold. You're not going to lose battery draw to the cold temperature. Or you can just carry it on your head. You'll forget it's there. And that can be a lifesaver. Anyway, ThruNite sent me this one to show to you, so I'm going to link it below. And once it gets dark, I'll show you some of the features on it. But what we're going to do for now is get ourselves some firewood and make an emergency fire. No knife. I'm not going to use my little knife. No knife, no axe, no saw. Just basically a club. So when you need a fire, a smart thing to do, if it's not like a dire emergency, is to have a little look around and find a spot that has a ready supply of dead wood. You want dead wood because it's going to burn easier, faster, better, and it's also a lot easier to collect. The other thing you want to do is scope out a dry source of tinder. So, for example, assuming it's the winter time, these are dead spruce twigs, and they don't have a lot of snow on them. If we go Lower down on the tree, there are even more that have no snow on them, and these ones have nice, fine branches. So a good starter is to grab a big handful, and you've seen me do this before, a big handful of the finest and driest conifer twigs that you can get. And once you've got that bundle, you can basically, sorry, I'm doing one hand here, you can tighten it up a little bit, get a match in there or a lighter, or you could even add to it by putting in bits of birch bark, and you're going to have a pretty good fire bundle right there, which in turn will allow you to light all of the bigger branches that you collect. Some other options that you might be familiar with would be to collect big handfuls of dry moss, which burns really well. You can use the dead heads from cattails and open them up so all their fluff is loose. Those work really well. And in my area here, where I'm in like central northern Ontario, our preferred fire starter is the famous white birch tree. So white birches are really easy to spot and identify, and as I'm sure you're aware, they have nice big chunks of bark on them that you can use to start fires. Now I typically try to find bark that's not going to expose any of the inside bark, although usually that will grow over. Usually there are some pretty loose strips just barely hang on to the tree, and you can get yourself a nice big bundle of those. This isn't my full bundle yet. What I want to do, because this is a survival fire, is I want to get a big bundle of fire starter that I can slide underneath all my dry branches and really get a good fire going right off the hop. I don't want to mess around with fires kind of snuffing out. So I'm going to go big here. So let's set that aside. I picked this spot because it's a little bit of an opening, but it's inside a conifer woods, so there's going to be much less chance of there being a wind chill in here. And what I want to do is I want to get my fire on or as close to the ground as possible, because obviously as the fire burns, it's going to melt the snow and it's going to put itself out from underneath, because you basically now have a fire on top of a big bundle. So two ways to do that. One is just to kick your way down to the ground, clearing a bunch of snow. The other way, if you've got your pair of snowshoes, pretty much no matter which style of snowshoe you have, you can use them as a shovel. They'll scoop up pretty big piles of snow. So let's put this film in fast forward here and dig out a spot for a fire. Okay, here's my cleared out spot. Now, one consideration, if you dig a pit and you get it cleared down to the ground, so this is pretty good. You can get a big pile of tinder down here. As it's burning up, it's drawing fresh air into fuel the combustion. So if your fire's down here and it's taking up all your pit, then it's really just drawing air across the top and up, which means that none of the air is really coming down as well and funneling through your fuel and making that big bit of combustion. So a trick for that is if you tunnel an air pocket, or not really a tunnel, but stamp it down, you make a trough, And now the air can come down right low to the ground into your fuel and up, so you'll get a lot better combustion. So what I'm going to do just right here where I already walked in is pack down a little bit of a funnel, a trough. So now air can come into my fire and I have a walkway in and out. And that's all I need. Let's, here I am. Let's get some more tinder. Birch bark, fine twigs, nice big bundle. Then we're going to get a club, and we're going to use our club to harvest our bigger branches. There's a few dead twigs over here, so I'm going to harvest these. Just the fine ones for now. The balsam, dead balsams make better tinder than dead spruces in my experience. So I'll preferentially grab some from this balsam tree. You're aiming to collect twigs that are pencil sized or smaller, and the finer they are, the easier it'll be to get them to light, especially if they're a little bit damp, which they very well could be depending on your winter conditions or in other seasons. Now over here there's a white birch, and it has excellent pieces of big peeling, fairly dry bark. So I'm going to collect that. In the summer, because these trees are always shedding their bark, by preference I go around and I find the bark on the ground, because I don't really like to peel it off of the living trees if I can help it. But in the winter you don't really have that option. So we're going to get a nice big amount of that. Okay, we're starting to get close to the amount of tinder that I would like to start this fire. If you're worried about the leftover snow in here, you can also lay down some of your bigger branches first and then make your fire on top of those. But here I think we're close enough. There's just a little bit of snow in here. Now we've got enough tinder. You could do more. You can't really do too much. If you're worried about getting that fire started or not, just gather more than you think you'll need and you're going to have more luck getting that blazing inferno going. So now what we want to do is harvest some smaller branches. We can do that by hand. But when we want to get our bigger firewood, the fuel that's going to sustain this fire, make it longer lasting, throw more heat with more coals, maybe to keep us warm through the night. And then we're going to use a club to harvest those bigger branches. And also we're going to look around for dead trees or dead branches that we can physically push over. It's a good idea to knock the snow off of these as you go if there's any snow on them. These are going to be a little bit damp because they're covered in lichen, although some of the lichen is probably dry and will be combustible. Some other parts of this lichen they will have absorbed moisture from the snow, and the temperature today, like obviously it's not winter, we have snow, but it's 0 degrees Celsius, 32 Fahrenheit. It's not that cold out. So just going to collect up a big bundle of these smaller branches. So they're not quite our tinder branches, although some of them have these tinder type tips on them. But we're also going for stuff that's maybe up to the size of our thumb. Things that you can easily snap by hand. And I think while I've been doing this, I've just spotted that club that I'm going to be looking for shortly. So let's let's put on the fast forward here, get our big pile of branches, and then we're gonna party in the club. Dun, dun, dun. Party in the club. I know you didn't really want to see that, sorry. This location's kind of ideal in that this one spruce, which is not dead, it's got a living top, but it has loads of good dead fuel wood down here at the bottom. So pretty much from this one tree we could do tinder, or we could, yeah, with the fine tips, and then we could do the medium branches, and then once we're able to knock off some of these bigger branches, we would also have some of our fuel wood. I wonder, just out of curiosity, let's have a look at this, see if it's a tinder or not. And it is kind of a tinder, so it's a little bit damp, but you could maybe use this as a mix with birch bark or something, and it might light up. In a drier weather, if it was colder air has less moisture. On a colder day, this would burn better, for sure. Okay. Big bundle of branches, that's what we want. Alright, here's our big bundle, fairly dry, smallish firewood, fuel wood. Let's put this on top of our starter bundle. Alright, so even just right now, if we just wanted a quick blaze, could light that birch bark on the bottom, and this should all come up real hot. And you might do that if you've got two people and somebody really needs to warm up. But it's really important to wait to start your fire after you have all your materials gathered that'll let you have a sustained fire. And then you can go out and collect more while it's burning. From experience, I can tell you that there's nothing worse than starting a fire and then scrambling for wood, and then your fire goes out while you're getting your next armload of wood. Then you have to start from scratch again, which is a real pain, especially if you're using like a friction fire method. You think about all that work to get your coal and your bundle started, and then if you don't have the materials on hand to sustain that fire, you just shot yourself in the foot. So here's where we are. Let's get our club, and let's now move on to some bigger firewood, stuff that's bigger than your thumb, maybe up to about wrist size. That's going to be about what we can manage without tools. Okay, the club that we're looking for is going to be something that comfortably fits in our hands. So that would be something, you know, we're looking for roughly something like a baseball bat. And it can be green wood, but then it's going to be harder to harvest it. Okay, that might work if, oh, I forgot, I have another EDC item with me. I have a multi-tool. So I could go and harvest a certain diameter of green wood using the little saw on here without too much work. So that would be an option if you've got that kind of a tool with you. Otherwise, I'm probably just going to look for a dead standing piece of wood about the right size, and it's going to be easier to harvest, easier to break. If I can find a forked tree, eyeball poke. If I can find a forked tree, then I can put that branch in there, or that log or that stick, and then snap it off at the length I want. So I've got my eye on a piece of dead standing aspen or poplar right now. I'm going to go try that out and then start whacking at some branches and see if it works. there's a few different dead things over here. This poplar seems a little bit rotten, but one thing you have to watch when you're harvesting a standing tree is if you push it too hard, it might scissor in the middle. So it might go the way you push it, but the top can snap off and come straight down like a nasty spear. So if you give it a good slow push, that's probably your best bet. Okay, let's have a look at this tree that I just harvested. So it's got a pretty good diameter for hanging onto and smashing at stuff. And it's dead enough that I probably can just break it fairly easily with my foot. Now that's way too long. This is like a 6-foot piece. Often they're going to be fairly rotten at the bottom where there's snow around them and they've been in contact with the wet ground. So I'm going to snap that piece off, but I'm going to set it aside. I'm going to get a big pile of firewood started here beside my fire pit. And where possible, I'm going to break these down into the size of pieces that'll fit in my fire area. Although in a pinch, you can leave them full length and you can just feed them into your fire as you need to. Okay, so let's do that. Now, got a club that's still a little bit long, but we're going to give it a go here. Are we rolling? Alright, here's our club. The nice thing about a club is it's going to save wear and tear on your hands, but also your gloves for harvesting all this firewood. And it's going to give you a mechanical advantage. I'm going to start by attacking this red pine tree, which has dead branches basically from here down. Now I could snap these ones by hand, but with a club it's much easier to do so. So also a little more likely that the snow is going to fall on you maybe. So just whack all those branches, don't lose your club, and then you can come around and pick up all the carnage. Wow, and it smells really good. Very piney. Okay, here's some here. Next, I've got my eye on a balsam with a lot of dead branches down low. Let's take our club over there. So while I'm cruising around looking for these dead branches, I'm also looking for some dead standing stuff. So I actually have spotted a few. We'll turn the camera on them in a minute. But while we're here, let's knock some snow off. A lot of these branches are quite a bit bigger than my thumb, so let's see how we make out here. Find a point of entry towards this tree, and whoa, I feel like my club had an issue. Still have some club left though. Still got some club left in me. This club's not quite going to work on the thumb-sized branches, just depending on how you hit them. Actually, I take that back, it's working great. The trick is to hit them close enough to the tree where the branch is brittle and has the least amount of flex. Also, on a branch that's too big, or you think is too big to break with your club, you can hit it in the fork with your club and you can split it at that fork. So that just split. Now that's easy to harvest because I basically cut the diameter in half. Get the other side here as well. Tidy up my work spot by building a big pile of firewood here. Yeah, that one's not going to go. But I can strip it of all of its smaller branches. I don't know about that one. Oh, there we go. Just needed a few hits. It's a pretty big one for not having an axe or anything. Here's 1 minute of work with the club. Put my snowshoes where they're going to be safe. And I want to pile up all my firewood where it's going to be easy reach of my fire. So I said I was keeping my eyes peeled for dead standing wood, especially hardwood. It's going to burn longer, better coals. So here's a piece of, that looks like a sugar maple or a red maple. It's just standing dry, dead. So come along over here and just harvest that. It's all been standing above the snow level and it is brittle, so that's gonna burn great. It looks like this other branch on it is dead, so we'll harvest. Whoop, don't hit yourself in the eyeballs. Harvest that. There's even a fat chunk down near the bottom here. It's a little bit soft and punky, but we'll set it aside. That might be like a second-rate firewood. Saw another dead one over here. This is dead standing. We haven't really gotten into any big dead standing yet, but this one's almost wrist size at the bottom. Well, half of a wrist size. And there are some other dead hardwood branches here, so we might as well pick them if we got them. Firewood. This one here, I could break it easily by hand. But a trick that you should know is if you have two trees growing close together, and ideally closer than these two, but these will do for the sake of demonstration, is to just put your stick in there and then use your body weight as leverage to break it. This is easy, gives you a huge mechanical advantage, and it is way safer than trying to break it over your knee, on the top, on the front, or even stepping on it, which I've definitely kind of tweaked my back before doing that. So our firewood pile is growing. So here's an example of a good candidate for some bigger fuel wood as well as small fuel wood altogether. This is a dead spruce. It's about 9 or 10 feet tall. At the bottom, it's probably 4 inches in diameter, and it's got pretty small branches all the way up, and it's going to be easy to push over. What I'm going to do before I push it over is I'm going to strip it of its branches, then we're going to topple it, and then we are going to find a good spacing of 2 trees together, and we're going to snap this down into something a little bit smaller. If we can't do that, again, we'll set it aside full length, and we can always feed it into the fire as we need it. The other trick being you can lay it halfway across the fire, burn it in the middle, and then you have 2 smaller pieces that you can feed in, or you can keep burning them in half using that same technique. They're all good tricks for when you need to have a big fire or a sustained fire outdoors. So let's just another piece of dry firewood, piece of old piece of ironwood maybe at the base of this spruce tree. Close enough for me. Once it's tipped over, finish up some of these branches that I couldn't reach. Don't lose that club. Now, I've got this big piece. Let's also harvest this little dead standing one. That's easy firewood right there. Tend to get a lot like that in these shady conifer stands as they die out. Now, we've got our 2 trees, and we'll just give this a go. I'm not going to stress myself. If I can't break it, I can't break it. But it just so happens that I can. So now I've got this shorter piece and a longer piece, which I can break down further, which I'm not. And this is just make sure you don't injure yourself when you're working on these things. But look at the size of that piece of firewood. That is the kind of firewood that's going to help you sustain a good fire. Now you can keep this up for as long as you need to until you've got a pile of firewood that makes you smile. Let's compile all this back at our fire pit. Let's light it up. before we go light up that fire, let's just have a quick peek here. I gathered up enough firewood to demo. If you are in the woods, you're wet, you're cold, and you're going to be out there for some time, you probably want to gather a pile of branches as tall as you are. Like a nice big brush pile, something that you can just keep feeding into that fire as you need it. If you're trying to get, you know, however many pounds of wet clothes dry down to your skin, you need a lot of heat. Now, in these shady areas, you often get a lot of small conifers that just don't compete, and they don't make it, and they die, which leaves you a lot of really dry stuff in the understory. This is how forest fires start and spread so quickly. The forest reaches a point where there's too much of this dead wood in the understory, and it makes conditions that are ripe for a fire. Now these pieces here, we can see they're dead and they've already fallen over, so we know that they're rotten at the base. It shouldn't take a lot of work to gather up several of these. So here's one, here's two. I can club all the branches off these, put them between trees, break them down to whatever length I want. Here's a dead one that hasn't broken yet. Now this one's a candidate. It's so long and slender that it could scissor and snap on us. But we're just going to try and pull this down in a second. There's another dead leaning one here. There's another dead one here. There's another dead one here. Okay, see how fast I'm stacking up this firewood? There's another one. 1, 2, 3. There's another 3 little ones here, but let's see if we can topple this big one, because it's got a lot of height, so it's got a lot of volume, even though it's skinny. Oh yeah, easy peasy. There's over 20 foot of tree right there. You just have to loosen it up at the base here, break it down, more firewood. So let's grab this stuff here. I can get it all in one big long arm load. Let's drag it back to our spot. And the moment we've all been waiting for. Let's fire this thing up. What do we got here? We got our starter bundle, smaller branches, and all of our tinder underneath. We've got our medium-sized stuff and those 2 larger logs within easy reaching distance to keep fueling it. And this is that last big length of long ones that I brought over, most of which I should be able to snap underfoot, some of which I might put between a tree and break if I need them. Let's do this. What are we thinking? Are we gonna go plasma? Or are we gonna go Bic? Plasma? Bic. Okay, the audience has spoken. We're gonna try the plasma first, and then if it doesn't work, we'll go with our good old-fashioned Bic lighter. This is a USB rechargeable Zippo electronic light. It fits inside of regular Zippo things. I saw them. A friend showed me them, and I thought that was super cool, because you basically, if you had a solar panel with you, you could keep your fire and your light and your navigation sustained indefinitely, because this is good for like 2,000 charge cycles. All right, here we go. Looks like it's gonna go. The trick with this is it doesn't throw a height of flame, you basically have to make contact with whatever it is you want to burn, okay? Unlike the Bic lighter, which has a height of flame, which allows you to burn up through like twig bundles and things very effectively. Okay, I'm cold, I'm wet. Let's burn, fire. Show me what you got. Now, depending on our circumstances, once this fire is going, we might just hang around, dry out, especially today where I'm wearing cotton. So your number one preventative measure in the winter is to wear the proper kinds of clothing. Wool and synthetics being superior to cotton, depending on how you layer them. As this starts to inferno, now we're going to start adding our branches on it, and we're going to get a nice big hot fire here. Hot enough to melt and dry the ground underneath it and throw some radiant heat that's going to evaporate all of the wet off of us. Going to get rid of some of these finer branches because they're going to help to get this moving into the inferno stage. I'm already feeling quite a bit of radiant heat from this. It's good. Again, if I wanted a longer sustained fire, you should aim to have a pile of sticks that's as tall as you. Really get it going. So another trick to keep in mind is if you think you're going to be stuck out for the night, it's better to gather your firewood further from your campfire so that in the night, because you're not probably going to sleep, you can keep yourself busy collecting more firewood and keeping warm. And you want to do that as close to your campsite as possible. If you don't have a flashlight, you definitely want to keep your best close firewood until the last. If you do have a flashlight, that makes things a little bit better. But it is easy to get turned around in the dark, harder in the winter when you're leaving your tracks in the snow, I know. But just some things to keep in mind. So I'll just give you another peek at this little, small but mighty ThruNite headlamp. It's waterproof, and like a lot of ThruNite lamps, if you hold it down, it's going to power on with a very low light setting, which is ideal if you're in your tent and you just want to find something in the dark without frightening everybody, or even moving around your campsite. You know, if you're group camping and you get people who go out with their like super flashlights, they're trying to find their toothbrush or something in the middle of the night, and it just wakes everybody up. That's the ideal setting. You can power it on, and it's going to turn on at the last setting that you had it on. If you hold the button, it's going to power through. So now it's on the low setting because I left it on the high setting. Hold the button, it's going to power up to the medium setting, and hold the button again, it's going to power, back to, oh, I just blinded myself. Where's our high setting? Right there. So that actually throws a lot of light for an itty bitty headlamp, right? Again, it's the size of my thumb. Keep it in an inside pocket. Even a handy way to carry your headlamp is actually as a neck lamp, and sometimes it's easier to move around with the light down at your neck, especially in a group setting. You've probably had that experience where you're all standing around and everybody's got their lights on, and you turn to talk to somebody and you're in their eyeballs and they're in your eyeballs. So if you wear it as a neck lamp and it's just facing down, it gives enough light, ambient light, for everybody to see each other, and that comfort of having a little bit of light around you. So here we are. Big fire in the background. Got to try out my snowshoes. Very happy about that. Got to try out this new light. Very happy about that. The plasma lighter worked. We have an inferno. We have lots of firewood around. There's no reason why we can't just keep busy with the club and using our mechanical advantage in every way possible to keep a nice big fire going. If you want a dry spot to sit down, you don't want to kneel in the snow like I am right now, just pile a bunch of firewood beside your campfire on top of the snow and use it as a seat. It's going to keep you off the snow. It's going to have that airspace underneath it. Even you could go through and grab a bunch of these wet branches and make a comfier, softer seat. So if you're ever stuck out or you just want to go out and play, this is a way that you can go out on Crown land, no live trees harvested, collect all the dead wood you want, make a fire. You might want to bring something out, cook, make a whole experience out of it, bring the family, good times outdoors, and then if you ever need it, the skill's there and you keep yourself warm. Catch you on the next one, YouTube.